What are we doing?
This next fan fiction is okay. I'll try to set it up for you. It is not a fan fiction based on Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's the show. It is based on Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's World Championships 2011, the DS game, and it is from the perspective of a female player. And from what I gather, this guy, I guess if you're prepared, you can sketch this guy. You've already shut it down. That's fine.
Yep.
He's a minor villain. He appears once in the show and once in the game. And from what I gather, you fight him every time you go up this mountain pass. And so it's a poem. It's like slam poetry directed to this villain. And it's called The Queen and the Bad Man. Part 1. Picking on the weak is bad taste, you say. Picking on the weak is your hobby, you say. Picking on the weak is the icing on your cake, the crumbs you lick up from an unpaid meal and gracious list, and the credits you've swiped from that poor guy whose bike broke down in front of you. Too bad for you, then, I'm not weak. And you should know, I beat you in the championships, after all. Beat you and your team so badly our number 3 didn't even need to get on their bike, and I could have taken a few more out... could have taken a few more of you as well with the almost full life point meter I drove around, and yet you challenge me? Like I'm just another pretty girl who doesn't know the world. You're pretty low on the ladder, you know. I lived in Crash Town. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you didn't know. I beat you and your sorry team. I marched off proudly to the finals while you lurked in the stands. Me and my friends, old and new. I knocked out all 3 of Team New World, and I won't pretend I did it on my own, because I didn't. But the proof's still there, isn't it? I'm not weak. I've got the records to prove it, and the skills as well. I'll give you a fight. With the way you play, I'll probably beat you bad again, and I'm not arrogant like you. Still, it's another fact. There aren't many duelists who can give me a challenge anymore, and you were never on the list.
Oh.
Picking on the weak is your hobby, you say. But you're the weak one in this pair, and since you challenged me, I'll pick you off the ground and you probably will, lose. Just don't whine when you do. And don't do worse. I've got enough boys after my number without having to add a guy like you. Part 2. You lose, and you whine about how I need a new hobby? Aren't you the one who said you liked to crush the weak? Aren't you the one who challenged little old passing me, thinking a girl in a dress, outlandish, yes, but it's a favor for Jack, and he's actually a friend, would be an easy target?
That's Jack Atlas, the master of faster, just by the way.
If you weren't so weak, I'd have worried more. If the pass weren't so empty, I would have worried more, but the dual runner shop's relocated now, and the only people who come up here are your friends and people like us who want to train or ride the harsh mountain roads. Honestly, if you didn't recognize my dual runner or me, you should have remembered that. What the area is famous for, why someone would come with the dual runner instead of a car. Because it's not the shortcut most drivers, the safe sort, really have in mind. But you challenged me anyway, ignoring all the hints that I might be out of your league, that anyone who crosses paths with you here might be out of your league. Are you so starved, or do you stand somewhere else the other days of the week? In that case, maybe I should worry. I can ask Mina anyway, or get Misaki or Jack to ask. They're closer. Anyway, you challenged me. You lost. And you have the gall to criticize my choice in hobbies, which, need I point out, you don't even know? What's a walkover duel to tell you about what I like? I'm not you who gets a laugh out of crushing the weak or the deplorable. I cleaned out Crash Town because I had to. There were kids there, you know. Little kids who lost their father, who had nowhere to turn to except 2 teenagers who only had one guardian between, and that was an old man to boot. Not that Klaus was bad, he's great, but it's a bit much to ask a man his age to look after 2 teens with licenses and 2 little kids as well. We just had to change the place.
We're really going off on a tangent here.
And the championship was our dream, the dream we thought we had to bury in Crash Town, but we dug out in the end. And I couldn't have done it without Klaus, without Toru, and without Masaki and Team Satisfaction, and Team 5Ds too, and Hotaru and Kenji.
Not Katie or Isabel.
But I digress. None of that had anything to do with you except maybe it was a chance for some growth of character you never had. But my hobbies, you don't know them. Collecting every card, playing every strategy, playing every duelist, yes, even you, and cleaning up the world so there's no Crash Town incarnate around the corner and no people to make it one. That's not a hobby. It's my responsibility, now that I know you're here and a stain. But we'll just see how much of a stain you are. Some weeds are fine growing wild after all, and as far as weeds go, you chose a good place. I'm not a gardener, for the record.
That's not my hobby. You don't know my hobbies, man.
Not a gardener. There was only one garden in Crash Town, and it was Barbara's. And I live in an apartment now. It doesn't matter. The only gardens I like are the field spells, and the fields filled with monsters, and snipping spells, because what use is a garden by the window if you're on a runner, and even the wind won't keep up. You've got a runner. You should know. Or maybe you don't. Maybe if you had some dueling pride and skill, you would.
Is that the end?
That's the end of part 2. I only transcribed 2 parts into this out of, I think, 9?
Wow, that's a lot.
This is not take as long as I thought it would.
I mean, I think probably because we're all fairly entranced for the most part. Like it's pretty.
No, it's a weird experience.
It's I don't know. Like I'm digging it. But there was that weird sort of zoning law detour for a while there, and it's like the roads aren't like you can't drive a car on this road. And then the other detour, but for the most part, I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to get the rest of it in here. Make it a series.